North Korea has broken the silence and issued back-to-back statements toward both South Korea and the U.S. this week. Seoul is pondering whether to downsize the joint military drills, while Washington maintained its stance that it's open to dialogue with Pyongyang. For more on this, we turn to our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung. Welcome back, Bo-kyung.
Thanks for having me, Tamin.
So, Bo-kyung, why don't we start with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong's statements toward South Korea this week. That was the first official statement from North Korea toward the Lee Jae-myung administration, right?
Right. Amid Seoul trying to ease the tensions on the Korean peninsula and to resume talks with Pyongyang, Kim Yo-jong released a statement on Monday and said President Lee Jae-myung is no different from his predecessor in blindly adhering to ROK-US alliance, while saying that Seoul's recent suspension of anti-Pyongyang broadcasts is not something that deserves any appreciation. She also said that Pyongyang is not interested in any proposal put forward by Seoul. To this, the Unification Ministry said this shows the high walls of distrust between the two Koreas, emphasizing that it will continue to pursue reconciliation with the North.
The government will stay steady and consistent in pursuing reconciliation, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence on the Korean peninsula without overreacting to the North's responses.
The presidential office also issued a similar message, saying it will consistently take the necessary actions to make a peninsula without hostility and conflict. Regarding Kim Yo-jong's remarks, one expert said the regime is asking more from Seoul, especially regarding its alliance with the U.S.
The message points to a more fundamental issue, the nature of the South Korea-U.S. alliance. It suggests that the future of inter-Korean dialogue and the restoration of relations will depend on how much autonomy South Korea can exercise from the U.S. in managing its relationship with the North.
Now, Bo-kyung, after Kim Yo-jong's remarks toward Seoul, the Unification Ministry mentioned downsizing ROK-US drills. What is that about?
Right. So Unification Minister Chung Dong-young said that he will propose to President Lee that the scale of the Seoul-Washington joint military drills be adjusted. And for those who are not familiar with the ROK-US joint military drills, South Korea and the U.S. conduct two major joint drills every year, Freedom Shield in March and Ilchi Freedom Shield in August. Both are command post exercises, a war game in which military leadership executes wartime scenarios. They are accompanied by various field training exercises, and U.S. strategic assets, too, are sometimes deployed to the peninsula. A lot of reporters asked the Defense Ministry whether there would be any changes regarding the joint drill.
The joint drills are proceeding as agreed between South Korea and the U.S., with no changes so far.
But one expert says there is a case of a drill having been suspended in 2018, and there could be changes made even at the last minute if the Korean and the U.S. leaders agree to do so.
Back in 2018, South Korea and the U.S. suspended joint military drills amid improving inter-Korean and U.S.-North Korea relations. While changing the current exercise schedule may be difficult if both leaders agree, a decision to adjust or pause the drills could still be made to support broader peace efforts.
So there's that for South Korea. And Kim Yo-jong also issued another message, this time directed at the U.S. What did she have to say this time?
Right. So she urged the U.S. to approach North Korea based on new thinking and asked to recognize Pyongyang as nuclear weapon state. She did admit that personal ties between the leaders, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, are not bad, but ruled out talks on Pyongyang's denuclearization. Still, the White House reaffirmed its readiness for dialogue with the regime's leader for denuclearization. The same expert said Pyongyang is asking Washington to make a decisive shift for talks to resume, tossing the ball in Trump's court.
It is calling for new thinking and the search for an exit strategy to recognize North Korea as a nuclear-armed state and begin a new round of nuclear arms reduction talks based on that premise.
So now we understand messages are directed at Seoul and Washington. Now, in the meantime, how is North Korea doing with its own alliances, China and Russia?
Right. When it comes to Russia, their ties are strengthening more than ever, with Russia having launched first direct passenger flights between Moscow and Pyongyang for the first time in around 3 decades, and Pyongyang providing Moscow arms for its war in Ukraine. In fact, according to a report by South Korea's National Intelligence Service on Wednesday, such boosted ties with Russia, support from Moscow, and Pyongyang's troop dispatches have been cited as reasons behind Pyongyang's boosted confidence. The regime is considering itself to have a significantly more advantageous strategic position than before, which apparently led to Kim Yo-jong's back-to-back statements. Meanwhile, the relationship between Pyongyang and Beijing seems to have weakened a bit. North Korea's Central News Agency did show Kim Jong-un paying tribute at the Friendship Tower recently, symbolizing the ties between them on the occasion of the 72nd anniversary of the Armistice Agreement. The report on it was quite shorter than before, though, hinting at a bit strained relations between the two.
All right, Bo-kyung, thanks for that coverage tonight.
Thank you.